Welcome back to the People's Convention. I'm here with Libby Emmons, Editor-in-Chief of the Post Millennial and Human events. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So last night, pretty crazy speech by Donald Trump. What are your takeaways this morning after what you saw yesterday?
I think that he's got a lot of the people's support, and I think that he continues to gain more support. The things that I found really interesting were, one, that he really leaned into the mission of the People's Convention, which is make a plan to vote, get out there, get your people out there, go rouse your family, encourage everyone to vote, because it doesn't matter how much support you have, emotionally, you need that material support in order to win the election.
Hopes and dreams don't
exactly
get electoral votes, right? So I wanted to also ask you about a story that you posted the other day. We've got three teens, and I believe it was Spokane, Washington, rented some Lime scooters, left some skid marks on a crosswalk, and now they're facing felony charges. Explain to us what's happening in this case.
So this is something that I bet a lot of your viewers have seen. Communities will paint pride flags in the middle of the street on crosswalks. And then whenever anybody steps on them, they freak out. And it's like, well,
it is a crosswalk.
It's a crosswalk. You literally put your altar in the middle of the street and got mad when people stepped on it. That's an insane move. So these teens are facing felony charges for leaving skid marks on it. In Huntington, West Virginia, the police are diligently looking for the driver of a truck that did burnouts on a crosswalk.
Wow.
We saw it in Delray Beach. And what's interesting about the Spokane one is in March, someone tried to set fire to the crosswalk. Then you had these kids leave skid marks on the crosswalk. And then and the city keeps repairing it, right? And then after the skid marks incident, someone else came by and splashed a bunch of paint on it.
Right.
So it does seem like the consensus to have LGBTQ allegiance emblazoned on the street is not shared by everyone in the community. But communities, cities don't seem to care. They really want to enforce this on everybody. And the thing about painting your sacred symbols in the street.
You just said an altar. I never thought of that.
Like people step on it. That's just so insane. And when you see a lot of the reporting about this from mainstream media outlets, they call it a mural. And a mural is literally that's on a wall. If someone comes by and defaces a mural, that's an intentional destruction of separate, art property, whether it's propaganda or art or whether you like it or not. But a crosswalk? It's in the street. We're going to drive over it.
The point is
there's going to be an oil spill on it. The point is to drive on it, to step on it. So maybe it's like they just don't want us leaving our homes. I don't know.
Meanwhile, at the same time, we see defacing of public statues. We see actual demonstrations of people walking on flags, burning American flags. Nothing. Not a peep.
And what if we put an American flag in a crosswalk? And then got mad when people drove over it. Leftists would be like, you're dumb. You put the flag in the crosswalk. Of course we're going to step on it. And you did see in Lafayette Square, there's all these, anti-Israel, pro-Gaza, pro-Hamas craziness going on. And they go in there and they cover the statues of our founding fathers with graffiti. And that's supposedly a First Amendment thing. In Lafayette Square in D.C., I think it was last weekend, you saw these protesters going nuts, throwing stuff at national parks, officials and officers and things like that. And nothing happened. There were no arrests.
It was a felony to attack a federal employee.
There were no arrests. Sure. Well, this is what we learned on January 7th, 2021. This is, the day after. That's what we learned. This is very serious crime, criminal trespassing, misdemeanor charges with years of jail time. But for some reason, it's totally okay. And it's a First Amendment thing when leftist protesters do it. And don't forget the over 120 days of literal rioting in Portland in the summer of 2020 when Antifa tried to burn down a federal courthouse every night.
Every night.
And
nothing happened there. That case in particular reminds me of the Douglas Mackey case in which, I think he faced like 6 months in
I think it was 7, but
7 months
something
in
like
jail
that.
Over a meme. And,
it was a joke.
Over a joke. You know, they had said, well, he coordinated indirect messages or things like that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't me. It was a joke.
He came up with a joke with his friends. Lots of people come up with jokes with their friends. I just watched a thing with Kevin Hart last night where he talked about how he and Chris Rock work on jokes together.
Yeah.
As though this is like some sort of felony.
Yeah.
You know?
Conspiring to commit a crime.
But conspiring to come up with funny jokes to post on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw similar cases on the other side. I think to this day are still up.
It's still up. Yeah. I think there was a woman, Christina Wong, I believe, and she posted a video of herself instructing Trump voters to vote on the wrong day.
Right.
And that was not prosecuted.
Yeah.
And every time we covered this at the Post Millennial, we would bring up the fact that this other meme went up, that this video is still there, that there was no prosecution. And it does seem insane to me that a man could be federally prosecuted for a joke. Not only a joke, but an amusing joke. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Christina Wong wasn't, and hers was kind of funny too. So I don't understand. Like, this is the kind of joke warfare that we see in elections, and that we see, this election season too. There were like so many memesters out there, you know, like posting things in 2016. It was a big part of the grassroots support for Trump and for the MAGA movement.
In 2016, they really realized the power of the culture, the power of the meme, you know, the irony of meme warfare. It's a real thing, manifesting the change in culture.
Yeah.
Because what is humor? What is a meme? It's cutting to the truth.
And when conservatives use culture to get their point across, that's a felony.
That's a felony. So speaking on that, when it comes to the internet, we have the Stanford Internet Research Agency.
The observatory,
The observatory has come out and said that they're shutting down operations. But at the same time, what are we starting to see? We're starting to see some other organizations, some other groups come in possibly to take their place. Have you seen that story? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I do think that it's probably a good thing that group, the election misinfo group, shut down. They were lying. That was exposed by Matt Taibbi in the Twitter files.
Yeah,
that
on both COVID and the election.
On COVID and the election, yeah, that they really had a big impact in censoring and suppressing Americans' free speech online. So it's good that they're getting out of the way. But just like with everything else, the language is going to change. They're going to call it something else and reform in another way. We're seeing that with the, resurgence of the resistance in 2024 in the lead up to that election. People are already preparing to undermine MAGA policies in the event that Trump wins the election.
A resistance to protect democracy itself, as they say.
Yeah, just
the irony.
Just like the cabals that they put together in 2020 and then bragged about it in a Time magazine article. They were like, we all got together and conspired to make sure that Trump lost this election
to protect
by
us.
hook or by crook, to protect Americans.
Yeah, it's wild that people don't see at face value, the misinformation, disinformation. I mean, the wrong think it's so plain to see what's happening. You wonder at some point if the clown show will come to an end. What's going to happen?
I don't know what's going to happen. It's a very interesting time to be alive. That's for sure.
So what do you see in the next leading up to the election? In closing, before we let you go, what are you focused on over the next 3 months? How do you think this plays out before the election? What are some big stories?
I think anything is possible leading up to this election right now. We have Joe Biden, who is being made fun of by world leaders for being essentially a sunsetting old man who, can't figure out what's going on. That's really scary as an American to see this going on with your president.
Yeah.
As an American, I support whoever our president is because I support the nation and I want us to do well.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's very scary to see this happening with President Biden right now. And I think that the pushback against it from Democrats is also scary because they're perfectly happy to just cover it up to protect their own reins on power. We have Trump being sentenced in a New York courtroom on July 11th. Anything could happen there. We saw Steve Bannon saying yesterday here at the convention that he thinks that they are going to put Trump in jail. I have a lot of people telling me, no, they're going to do house arrest. They're going to do nothing. It's going to be a slap on the wrist. And then we have the RNC. What does a Republican National Convention look like if, for example, he's not going to be there? That would be really wild as well.
Yeah.
And you have Americans really dug in on both sides here. I don't know if there's that many voters who are undecided. And that's what I think is so interesting about this conference is it's really saying, you have friends and family who support Trump. Just make sure they vote.
Yeah.
If they all vote, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then that's what the problem is. So, yeah, we're really at such a crux in this country of these two diametrically opposed sides. One thing that happens a lot is Democrats will come out with this thing saying, expose. Trump says he's going to do mass deportations. And then you have conservatives going like, I'm already voting for him. You don't have to sell me on it.
Yeah.
It's total opposite.
It's like that Michael Moore piece that was completely reversed a few years ago.
Yeah.
A Molotov cocktail into the system, thinking that was going to somehow make him look bad. But people just embrace that ideology very, very quickly.
Yeah. And you had Molotov cocktails being thrown at protests in New York and other places. But I think immigration is a huge issue. I think the economy is a huge issue. Obviously the border closure, if we can get that across, that's a huge issue. And a big thing, I think, is the way that language is used to obfuscate what people really believe and what's really going on. A good example is like gender affirming care. Well, that means sex changes for kids.
Right.
When you say to your mom, who's a big lefty like mine, that means sex changes for kids, she's like, what, really?
Yeah.
Are you sure? That's
I wouldn't let them get a tattoo, but I'm going to give them mind-altering chemical drugs.
Well, that was Jazz Jennings' dad.
Yeah.
He didn't want his son to get the tattoo, but he was fully okay with the castration.
And not to go off on tangential there, but what kind of culture do we live in where now that's a broadcast television show?
That's very
of
scary.
This child's life. I
think there's a lot of concern for, young Jennings as Jazz grows up in this culture and facing the serious challenges.
Yeah.
And detriment to his endocrine system. That's just a really scary situation.
Yeah.
But anything's possible in the next couple months.
And as a father with young children, I do see this next few years as sort of a pivotal turning point in how it's going to be moving forward. So we appreciate all you do. Thank you, Libby, for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Libby Emmons, again, we have Libby, editor-in-chief of Post Millennial and Human Events. Is there anything you want to close with, anything you're promoting, anything coming up soon?
Well, you can find out everything that we're doing at thepostmillennial.com and humanevents.com. We have great work up from Jack Posobiec and Andy No and all of our other amazing contributors. So definitely check that out. And you can find me at Libby Emmons on Twitter.
Libby, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.